वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नमोऽस्तुते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दाय तपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः Hari Om and Sitaram to everybody. Thank you for the warm and loving welcome by Tushin South Shiva Mandir. Tonight is the 5th night of 14 nights of Mahabharata Yajna. So we have taken the challenge of finishing this 100,000 shloka, huge epic, in 14 nights. So let's see, we're quite behind. The story is massive and it is so enrapturing that it is hard to skip anything. But we'll sing for a few minutes, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, and then we will get started. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Kanhaiya Lal Ki Jai. Okay, so we are seeing this fascinating story of the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata is a scripture, just like the Ramayana is, and the Mahabharata is also a wonderful mirror into our own personality. You know, when we look inside ourselves, do we find negative qualities or positive qualities? Simple question. Negative or positive qualities? We find both, is it not? We find negative and positive qualities in every single one of us. Are the negative qualities more or the positive qualities more? Someone might say that is debatable, but in most of us, we have more negative qualities than we do positive qualities. The number doesn't actually matter, because you know you can have 1 pound of cotton, could be so much, isn't it? And you put it aside next to 1 pound of gold, a little tiny piece of gold is equal to so much cotton. And so, size and quantity doesn't matter, but the reality of the situation is that we have many more negative thoughts than we do positive thoughts. This is represented, well, whatever is inside will eventually be expressed outside as well. And so what you find in the Mahabharata is that there are negative and positive forces called the Kauravas and the Pandavas. There are 100 Kaurava brothers and 1 sister, and there are 5 Pandava brothers. So Kauravas or negative forces are 100, and the positive is 5. Now the interesting thing is, what is the source of our negative and our positive thoughts? Is it not the same source, our mind? The mind is the source of all of our thoughts, all of our emotions, isn't it? In the same way, the source of these 100 Kauravas and these 5 Pandavas is the same. They belong to the same family. They have the same grandfather. However, the father of the Kauravas, the negative forces, his name is Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra is a blind king, and he represents our mind that has been blinded by selfishness and by extreme attachment. And on the other side, you have the Pandavas. Their father is Pandu. He has weaknesses, but he is noble and divine. So you have on one side, the origin of the negative forces is our blind mind, blinded by our own attachment and our own selfishness. And on the other hand, the source of all the positive qualities is divinity itself in our mind. So you have these two, Kauravas and Pandavas. This at least you should not forget which side is good and which side is bad. Now the story continues. Let us see. The leader of the Kauravas, his name is Duryodhana. Duryodhana means one who is very unfair and unjust in war, in battle. He's a cheater. You know, he'll do whatever he has to. He's a cheater. That would be Duryodhana, who fights unfairly. You like it when people fight unfairly with you? No, we don't like it. And the leader of the Pandavas, his name is Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira happens to be the son of Dharmaraj himself. And so here you have these Kauravas and you have these Pandavas on the outside fighting against each other. you also have them on the inside fighting against each other in our own mind. Which one wins? Who do you think wins inside? The Kauravas inside or the Pandavas inside? Well, it depends on which one is strong at the time, isn't it? You cannot say for sure one will win. It means you don't know which one will win. It depends at the time which one is strong. Okay, so now let us see how it plays out outside. Duryodhana wants to be king. Duryodhana, remember, he is the son of the blind king Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was not actually supposed to be king. Because you want a blind leader? A blind person cannot be a leader of a country or a kingdom. However, because there was nobody, temporarily he was put on the throne. And so his son Duryodhana now feels that this kingdom belongs to him and he should be the next king. Actually, the kingdom belongs to Yudhishthira, Pandu's son Yudhishthira. And so Duryodhana realizes that there is no way for him to get the kingdom unless the Pandavas are removed. And when someone wicked is there, you think they can remove goodness fairly? The only thing they can do is something adharmic or something unfair. And so he decides that really speaking, what we have to do is get rid of the Pandavas. And so he twists his father's leg. Remember, his father is so attached to him. His father goes along with whatever he says. And so he ends up coming up with a plan where the Pandavas are sent to this retreat home in the kingdom called Varanavada. And what is strange, well, what happens over there is Duryodhana had a palace built for them. A beautiful palace. But you know, looks can be deceiving sometimes. Huh? And that palace was built with flammable materials. If you light a diya in there, that whole place could catch fire in 1 second and burn in 1 second. It was built with like wax and lac. It was an extremely flammable house that was built, and Duryodhana's vision was one night when they're sleeping, we're going to get our guy to set fire on it and all of them will burn to death and it will look like an accident. So this is his plan on how to get rid of the Pandavas. The Pandavas are tipped off and they find out. And they build a tunnel to escape from this house of lac. And regarding this, you know, when you get on the airplane, what is the first thing that the air hostess or air host tells you? They say, please look and find the closest exit, isn't it? They make their hands like this and they say, look for your closest exit. And the principle is, whenever you enter somewhere, even if a thief enters a building, they enter knowing where they're going to exit, is it not? Whenever somebody enters somewhere, they have to know what the exit point of that place is. So you have to know what your exit is. In fact, one day somebody had asked our Puja Guruji, Swami Tejomayananda, newly married, what advice do you have for us? And Guruji said that just like when you enter an airplane, you have to know where the exit is. In the same way, when you enter even a marriage, you have to know where the exit is. We enter marriages without knowing. We just enter and that is the end. But he explained that Grihastha is not the end. Grihastha ashrama, you have to let it mature into Vanaprastha ashrama. So wherever you enter, you have to know how you're going to exit. How these Pandavas decided to exit was through a tunnel that they secretly built. And before the Kauravas could signal to their minister to light this place on fire, they went into the tunnel and they set it on fire, and this minister ended up getting burned in there instead. And so the Pandavas escape, but nobody knows that they have escaped. And when they escape, while they're escaping, everyone comes and sees this massive palace burning in flames, and everybody thinks and laments that the Pandavas are dead. Back in the palace, let me tell you a little bit about the symbolism about this. One commentator said something wonderful. This body of ours, it is called a deha. Deha is that which can burn, or that which decays. That which decays, that which burns is called this body. Is it not that this body burns at the end? And so what we are supposed to do is we are also supposed to build a tunnel by which we're going to exit this body at the time that it is decaying and burning. And how we build that tunnel and where we escape to, well, we escape to Bhagavan or to moksha. And the tunnel that is built is a tunnel built with our sadhana, our seva, all the spiritual practices that we put effort in to do. And like this, we build a tunnel to escape the decay and the burning of this body in which we live. Interesting, isn't it? Every story in Mahabharata has such deep significance. Unfortunately, we can't see all. This is just one little example. Okay, so now the news reaches, the kingdom that they all live in is called Hastinapura. So now the news reaches Hastinapura that this palace has been burned and the Pandavas are dead. And they all shed crocodile tears, and they offer Shraddhanjali and Tilanjali, and they do the final rites for the departed souls, and all this tamasha drama they do to show that they're really sad that their cousins are dead. Meanwhile, inside they're dancing and they're joyous and they're happy they've finally gotten rid of these Pandavas. Well, it so happens that the Pandavas didn't actually die. They went across the river, they escaped, and now they were thinking what to do. They thought better we remain incognito for a little while. Let the Kauravas think that they have won, and we'll catch them off guard before we go back. And so they go and take refuge in this place called Eka Chakra. But on their way there, so many wonderful things happen. One is our great Bhima. Bhima is brother number 2. He's a big, strong guy. And he ends up marrying a Rakshasi who falls in love with him. Very sweet lady. And they have the cutest son called Ghatotkach. He'll come later, but this happens on their way there. They reach Eka Chakra and they decide to take the disguise of Brahmanas. These 5 brothers are with their mother, so it is 6 of them. They take the disguise of Brahmanas and they go and stay in the home of a Brahmana family over there. And so they, just like all the other Brahmanas, they go and they beg for bhiksha. They beg for alms, they walk around and they ask. Now Bhima is a big guy, so he is always hungry. And so whatever they used to get in bhiksha, their mother used to say, share it amongst all of you. But the deal was, whatever is there, first it would be divided into 2. Half would go to Bhima, and everything else would be divided amongst the rest of them. And like this, they lived very happily in this Eka Chakra. One day, Bhima used to do seva for one of the potters over there. And so one day he built him this huge pot. And so Bhima took that pot, and that is what he started to use to collect bhiksha after that. Anyways, these little sweet things that happen in spite of all the suffering that they were going through. And this is something important for us to remember, that actually a person is only a victim of their situation if they don't have endurance. If they don't have the fortitude to go through the suffering that has come to them, then they're a victim. Otherwise, they're not a victim. No one would have looked at the Pandavas. Look, they're supposed to be living in a royal palace. And here they are, begging for alms in the shelter of another Brahmana family. But this is how life ended up, and they took it very gracefully. Okay, now some time passed, and one day Kunti Ma, the mother of these Pandavas, heard her hosts crying and talking in whispers. And she said, no, something must be going on. It was just her and her son Bhima at home. And so she went to them and she said, what is happening? Why are you guys so sad? And so the mother and the father of the family, they said, in this town, what happened is a while ago, an asura named Bakasura showed up. And he would just come into the village and he would start to eat people and he would start to cause havoc, and it had disrupted our life so much that we didn't know what to do. So we made a deal with him. And our deal with him was, look, you don't come to us and just ravage and cause these problems. You stay in that cave outside the city, and we will every week, once a week, we will send you a full cartload of food with one person. And you can eat all that food and you can eat that person too. This was the deal. And in exchange, you take care of our town for us. And so this Bakasur agreed. And so the family was telling Kuntima that it is our turn to send a family member tomorrow to this Bakasur. And the problem is that if the husband goes, then the wife cannot live without him. And if the wife goes, the husband cannot live without him. And if they both go, then the children cannot live without them. So they decided that the whole family is going to go to Bakasura tomorrow. And so Kuntima says, no, you're not going to go. She says, my son Bhima is going to go. And they say, what do you mean? You are our guest. We cannot let you send your son into the mouth of death like that. We're not going to let that happen. And she says, no. My son is really powerful. Okay, let me tell you something. One day, when he was a little baby, I was holding him and a tiger roared in the background and I got scared and I dropped him. And he rolled down a cliff and he banged his head on a rock. And when we went to see him, that rock had turned to powder and he was totally fine. This Bhima, this son of mine, is really powerful. You don't worry, he will be able to handle this Bakasura. And so the family trusts her and says, okay, fine. And so Kuntima goes and tells Bhima, tomorrow you're going to get a cartload of food and you are going to go to Bakasura and you are going to fight with him. Well, he just heard you're going to get a cartload of food and that was enough for him. He was so happy imagining he's going to get so much food tomorrow. And the thought of fighting also, he's a Kshatriya, imagine sitting there for so long, not fighting when it's in his blood. He was overjoyed, ecstatic. So now his brothers come home and Yudhishthira, his older brother, thinks, well, something is up. Why is Bhima so happy today? And he inquires and he finds out that actually this is the deal. And he goes to Kuntima and he says, how can you send our brother to death like that? What is wrong with you? And Kuntima says, I have faith in my son. I know the strength of my son. I know he has the power to defeat Bakasura. See what a wonderful woman she was. She knew the capacity of her sons. So much so that she was willing to send him into the mouth of death. How many parents know the capacity of their children? And have faith in the fact that I have put enough good samskaras in them that they can go out and face the negativities of the world and remain dharmic. Parents are scared, isn't it? Natural tendency. But see the strength of Kuntima. Not only was she brave, but she made her children also have faith in themselves and in each other. And another thing that she did is that she always encouraged her sons to become better, not bitter. I mean, their cousins just tried to burn them and kill them. She didn't allow them to harbor hatred. She encouraged them to build more strength in themselves, more faith. And instead of revenge, she made sure that they didn't become resentful. This is the glory of that wonderful Kuntima. Little bit we can learn from her and the whole world will be different in parenting. Anyways, so now the next day comes and Bhima takes this big cartload of food very happily to Bakasura. Now as he's going there, as he reaches the cave, he realizes, I'm going to kill this Bakasura. And then after I kill him, then I will be unclean. So I cannot eat at that time. I have to go home and take a shower and all of that. So better I eat now before I call him and kill him. So he starts to eat all the food in this cart. And Bakasura then hears this noise outside and he comes out to see what is going on and he sees this huge person eating his food. And he gets angry and he says, what is wrong with you? Do you not know this food is mine and I'm going to eat you too? And Bhima just ignores him. And he comes and he starts to fight with Bhima. So now Bhima is here finishing off, the remains of the cart, the food on the cart, and with his left hand he's fighting with this asura while he's eating. And finally when he's done eating and he's happy and belly full, then he turns and he gives him some blows and he kills him. And so now this Bakasura is dead. And he waits for the night, and then he drags this Bakasura to the gates of the town. He waits till night because he doesn't want anybody to know it is him. Kunti Ma had a deal with that family that they wouldn't tell them that it was Bhima who went. Because remember, they're in incognito, right? And so now the next day, everyone in town sees Bakasura is dead. And so they go to this family and they're like, what happened? It was your turn. How did this happen? And they said, well, we were on the way. And some divine being said, don't worry, we will take it. And they took care of it. And we don't know who he is or where he came from. And so they made some story and they ended that whole thing. Anyways, like this, time in Eka Chakra passed. And one day, a Brahmana came. He was going house to house, a Brahmana guest. And so the tradition is when a guest comes, you invite them into your home, you feed them, you talk to them, you spend time with them. And so this Brahmana comes in and he starts to have a chat with Kunti Ma and her sons and everyone at home. And he says, actually, I am going house to house, not just for fun. I have been sent by King Drupada. King Drupada, and he starts to tell a story. He says, King Drupada is a very powerful king who has a rivalry with another acharya called Dronacharya. And he tells a backstory about how Drupada hurt Dronacharya, and then Dronacharya felt offended, and then he decided to seek revenge, and he took revenge on Drupada, and then he thought that it was all over, but then that created hatred in Drupada's heart, and then Drupada wanted revenge. Actually, we saw this story a few days ago, but long story short, King Drupada was a great king. Drona was the acharya, the teacher of these princes. And in his Guru Dakshina, he had asked these princes to go and capture Drupada for him as he sought revenge. So these boys are listening. I mean, they're listening to their own story. But then he starts to tell something that they didn't know. He says, after Drupada was sent off by Drona, the revenge, the hatred that was there in Drona's heart became planted in Drupada's heart. And Drupada decided to now seek revenge on this Dronacharya. So he went and he did a yajna. And in this yajna, he did a putra kamishti yajna, and the purpose of doing this yajna was he wanted to get a son that was going to kill Dronacharya. See the purpose of noble thing like a yajna, and the purpose to get a son who is going to kill this Dronacharya. Okay, so this is the purpose. The other thing is, when he was being captured, it was actually Arjuna who was able to capture him. And he was so mesmerized by the power and skill of Arjuna. Like he fell in love with Arjuna. And so during this yajna, at the same time that he wished for a son who would defeat Dronacharya, he wished for a daughter that he could give in marriage to Arjuna. I want to give him something because of how wonderful he is. This is what he was thinking. And so out of this yajna now comes, not as a baby, but as a grown man on a chariot, a divine divine man called Drishtadyumna. And it is decreed that he is going to be the cause of Dronacharya's death. At the same time, out of the fire comes the most beautiful woman ever. Her name is Krishna. Not Krishna, Krishna. See, when you say Krishna, you're referring to this lady, not to Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Her name was Krishna, also known as Panchali, also known as Draupadi. This was her name. And it was proclaimed that she was going to be the cause of the destruction of all the Kshatriyas, all the warriors. And so this Brahmana is telling this story to them, and he says, that King Drupada has set a Swayamvar. And he has made the challenge such that it is only Arjuna who can actually win the hand of this Draupadi. And so he is sending Brahmanas across the country to let everybody know of the Swayamvar, because he has faith that the rishis told him that a yajna cannot go in vain. So if Draupadi has been born for the purpose of marrying Arjuna, Arjuna must be alive. And so we are going around with the hope that we will tell somebody who will tell Arjuna. Maybe I might tell Arjuna myself one day. And he's telling Arjuna. So now these princes hear this story and they're itching now to go to this Swayamvar. But they don't say anything because their boss is Kunti Ma. And so they very quietly sit there. And Kunti Ma says, you know what, I think we have been here long enough. Let us go to this Panchala Desh and let us go and see what is going on at this Swayamvar. And so they set off now to go to this Swayamvar of Draupadi. When they get there, well, the description of the hall also is given so brilliantly, right? But when they get there, they go there in disguise. As Brahmanas, they go in disguise and they go separately, one by one, so they're not figured out. Huh? Well, when they go in, they see kings and princes from all over, including Duryodhana and all of his brothers, including Duryodhana's wicked friend Karna, including Duryodhana's wicked uncle Shakuni, including Duryodhana's wicked brother Dushasan. Everybody they know actually is there at that Swayamvar. And in a most special scene, you know who else is there? Bhagavan Sri Krishna and Balaram. And this is the first time that Bhagavan Sri Krishna appears in front of the Pandava brothers. And so here they are, and the condition for the Swayamvar is announced. Whoever picks up this bow and strings it, and with 5 arrows is able to shoot a moving target of a fish on the top, looking at the water reflection below, that person will get to marry this Draupadi. And so kings come and try. So many kings and so many princes come and try. And they all miss the target. Duryodhana tries, Karna tries, everybody tries. And all of them are unsuccessful. Finally, Arjuna gets up. And he goes up to the brother of Draupadi and he says, is a Brahmana allowed to try? I mean, the Kshatriyas couldn't do it. Can a Brahmana try? And Drishtadyumna says, well, I see no reason why a Brahmana can't try. It doesn't matter who you are. The condition is the condition. And so Arjuna does pranams and pradakshina to the bow. And he picks it up and he strings it effortlessly. And in the blink of an eye, with 5 arrows, he has brought the target down. And everyone is staring at, who is this Brahmana who was able to accomplish what all the Kshatriyas, all the trained warriors were not able to accomplish? And so they feel that they have been humiliated by King Drupada for letting a Brahmana win this Draupadi who they thought belonged to them. And so they get up now and they start to fight. And Arjuna and his brothers start to protect Drupada. A big fight happens over there. Huh? And then the Pandavas are obviously winning. They're defeating everybody effortlessly. Arjuna even fights with Karna at this time. And Karna says, who are you? You're so great. And he does pranams to him. and finally Bhagavan Sri Krishna gets up. And he says, look, this Brahmana had asked for permission before he picked up the bow. And he has won Draupadi fair and square. So there should be no problem. He should be allowed to take her. And Bhagavan Krishna had told Balaram when these Pandavas had come in, look, this is the Pandavas. He said to Balaram, they look like burning coals covered with ash. Just beyond the sight, actually their brilliance in disguise, like that. And so, anyways, now Arjuna takes Draupadi and they're leaving. Remember, Draupadi is a princess. from a great kingdom. She doesn't know that Arjuna is a king, a prince. She knows he's a Brahmana. But she leaves her kingdom and all her riches and everything. And she goes now with this Brahmana who has won the conditions of the Sangha. See samskara? How devoted they were to their word. So now Draupadi goes with them. And they reach home and they say, Kuntima, Kuntima, look what we have brought today in Bhiksha. In jest they say that. And what is Kuntima's regular dialogue? Whatever you have brought, share it amongst the brothers. And then she turns and she realizes that it is not food, but it is a bride. And she thinks to herself, oh my God, what have I said? And all the brothers think, oh my God, what has she said? Because in the olden days, the word of the mother wasn't the word of the mother today. You know, mom says 5 minutes again, and the child says, yes, 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 whatever. And then the mom says, time for bed, and the child says, yes, 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 whatever. It wasn't the case in the past. Whatever the parents said was considered, they followed Mahabharata. Whatever the parent says, no matter what, that word is followed exactly. That is how this Nachiketas ended up with Yamaraj in Kathopanishad. But anyways, now they're in a dilemma of what to do because Kuntima has said to share this bride. Oh, that is unheard of. And so Yudhishthira, remember, he's the son of Dharmaraj, he gives thought and he says, you know, my mother cannot say anything wrong. If she said it, and he's thinking, he's saying, my gut is also saying, it is not adharma to follow what she has said. It is not adharma for her to marry all 5 of us. Now for one man to marry multiple women, that was a common thing. But for one woman to marry multiple men, that was not heard of. Anyways, as they are thinking, Bhagavan Sri Krishna comes to meet them with Balaramji. Bhagavan Krishna is actually the nephew of Kuntima. So they're cousins. Kuntima is his Pua. And so these first cousins, now they're meeting for the first time. He comes and he does pranams to her and to Yudhishthira because he's his older cousin, and they all hug and they're happy to see each other. And Bhagavan Krishna says, you all must remain in disguise a little bit more time. And then they do pranams and then they also leave. In the meanwhile, Drishtadyumna, the brother of Draupadi, comes to find out who are these people who have taken my sister. The father sends him to investigate. And he comes and he sees these 5 men and this one older lady, and they don't sound like they're Brahmanas. They don't look like they're Brahmanas. They're talking about warfare and weapons and all of this. And so he goes back to Drupada and he says, you know, I have a feeling that this is the Pandavas themselves. It looks like it is Arjuna and Bhima and Yudhishthira and Nakula and Sahadev, and that's Kuntima. I don't think that this is a Brahmana. I think this is the Pandavas. And so Drupada is overjoyed if that is true, because his purpose, he wanted Draupadi to be with Arjuna. And so he says, okay, invite them to the palace. And so they're given an invitation to come to the palace now. And Drupada says, please introduce yourselves. And so Yudhishthira feels, no, now is the time. We must tell him who we are. We cannot lie to the future father-in-law, right? And so he says, actually, we're the Pandavas, and you know, this is how we escaped the burning of that palace, and this is what we've been doing all this time. And he tells this whole story to Drupada. And then Drupada says, well, I'm happy that Arjuna is the one who is going to marry Draupadi. And Yudhishthira says, actually, all 5 of us are going to marry her. And he is flabbergasted. Which father wants to hear that? And he says, what do you mean all 5 of you are going to marry Draupadi? And at that time, Bhagavan Veda Vyasa comes in. Bhagavan Veda Vyasa happens to be the biological grandfather of these Pandavas and Kauravas. He comes in and he says to Drupada, let me tell you something. In her previous life, Draupadi had done tapas and prayed to Bhagavan Shiva. And in that prayer, she had asked Bhagavan Shiva to give her a perfect husband. And she had asked Bhagavan Shiva 5 times. I want a perfect husband, I want a perfect husband, I want a perfect husband. 5 times she asked. And so Bhagavan Shiva said to her that in your next life you will have 5 husbands. She said, no, but I want 1. I don't want 5. And he said, well, first of all, you asked 5 times, so you're going to get 5. And second of all, see, she asked for a husband who was dharmic and noble, who was strong, who was a hero, who was handsome, and who was intelligent. And is it possible to find all 5 in one person? Actually, they say that you cannot find a perfect person. And so, to fulfill her wish of finding someone who was dharmic, she had to marry Yudhishthira. Someone who was strong, she had to marry Bhima. Someone who was a hero, she had to marry Arjuna. Someone who was beautiful, handsome, she had to marry Nakula. And someone who was intelligent, she had to marry Sahadev. And this is how she ended up marrying the 5 Pandavas. It takes great bravery to surrender to your past karma and accept the present in the way that it has come to you. But she was a really, really wonderful woman, and she surrendered to the karma that had come to her. And so she got married now to these 5 Pandavas with Draupada's blessings. Okay. You know, that reminds us, whenever you think about Draupadi, we're supposed to remember that nobody is perfect. Our spouse is not perfect. Our children are not perfect. Our parents are not perfect. There's nobody perfect in this world. And yet we go on demanding perfection from the people who are around us. Do we not? We demand perfection, demand perfection, demand perfection. But we ourselves don't have perfection. But we're supposed to remember that the only perfect being in this world is Bhagavan Krishna, is Bhagavan himself. And everybody else has imperfections. And together we come with our karmas to help each other grow out of these imperfections. So the imperfections of each other are not supposed to make us impatient. They're supposed to make us think about how we can help each other to grow. Whatever imperfections are there in another person, they're there for me to grow. That is Bhagavan's present to me to help me to grow, really speaking. Something to keep in mind and remember when we see Draupadi. Now, you know when something dramatic like this happens, well, gossip spreads like wildfire, is it not? And so word reaches the Kauravas that actually the Brahmana who had won the hand of Draupadi was none other than Arjuna, and the Pandavas are still alive. And they are just shocked. And they don't know what to say, and they don't know what to do. And you just imagine the panic that is there, because now they know that the Pandavas know that they tried to kill them. I mean, if they died, then there's no one to tell the story, but now they're alive. So now what to do? And so in panic and in lack of thinking, the Kauravas go and try to attack the Pandavas. Again, because they don't want them to live. Well, the Pandavas effortlessly defeat them like nothing. And humiliated, now they go back. And the elders say to them, well, what is wrong with you? Who told you all to go and fight like that? Right? And so they have a meeting and they try to figure out what to do. Before that meeting, Duryodhana goes to his father and he says, he says to him, you have to find a way to get rid of these Kauravas, these Pandavas, because their presence just burns me, and I'm the one who deserves this kingdom, not them. And if you don't give me the kingdom, then I'm going to die. And he blackmails his father, who already has a weakness of attachment for his son. And so he brainstorms ways in which he can get rid of the Pandavas. But now an assembly is called, and there's Dhritarashtra, there's the wise minister Vidur, there's the grandfather Bhishma, there's all of these people now sitting and thinking what to do. And Bhishma, the grandfather, he says, you know, it is time for you to give up your hatred of these Pandavas. They're actually the rightful heirs to this kingdom. This kingdom belongs to them. You have to give it back to them. But you know, when somebody has tasted power, you know they say when an animal has tasted blood? Well, when a person has tasted power, there's a line in Ramayana where the section where Bharata is coming to the forest and Lakshmana and Bhagavan Ram see Bharata coming. And Lakshmana picks up his weapon and he's ready to go and kill Bharata, and he's like, look how this power has got into his head. He's coming to try and capture you in the forest also. And Bhagavan Ram says to him, it is true that power corrupts. When somebody tastes power, they really become corrupt. But Bharata is the one person who power cannot corrupt. Because of how Bharata is, power cannot corrupt him. Everybody else, it is very difficult to not be corrupted by power, actually. You know how it goes. People are very noble before they get power, and then the power, like a poison almost, it goes and it poisons their mind slowly, and like that. Dhritarashtra has tasted power, Duryodhana has tasted power, and it is impossible for them to think of relinquishing this power now. And so they come to an agreement that they're going to give half the kingdom to the Pandavas. Because the Kauravas cannot bear to see these Pandavas, and the Pandavas also don't want to see the Kauravas. Right? They've reached the point where you tried to kill us. Are you joking? This is time number 2. You've tried to kill us. This is enough. Right? So they come to a decision that they're going to split the kingdom, and half of it is going to go to the Pandavas, and half of it is going to go to the Kauravas. And so the Pandavas are invited now to this kingdom, and they're told, you know, okay, we're going to give you half of the kingdom. And Yudhishthira doesn't want to have any fight in any way, and he says, yes, we're happy with that. And what they do is they end up giving the half of the kingdom that is totally barren land. There was a part of the kingdom where the capital used to be called, Khandava Prastha. That was the name of this part of the kingdom. And because of a curse of some rishis, this land had become uninhabitable. Nothing grew there, nothing could live there, nothing could survive there. It was just barren, dilapidated land. That was the half of the land that was given to the Pandavas. And so now the Pandavas also know this, and the Kauravas also know this. But the Pandavas don't want to fight. And so they take this barren land that has been given to them, and they go. Khandaprastha is where Delhi is now. So now see what happens. Bhagavan Shri Krishna is with them. And Bhagavan Shri Krishna calls Indra Devata. And he tells Indra Devata, I want you to build this place up like new. And it is now from today going to be called Indraprastha. It is going to get a new name because you're going to give it new life. And so Indra calls the heavenly, what is it called? The architect of Swarga, Vishwakarma, and they now build a most beautiful palace, and they turn this barren land into a prosperous kingdom. Yudhishthira is crowned king of this Indraprastha, and with their hard work, their effort, their nobility, their goodness, they build up this kingdom called Indraprastha. Now, one day, now they settle down and everything is going smoothly. And you know, they have just gotten married, newlyweds, right? And when somebody gets married, what happens? First, everybody comes to give advice on how to live a married life, is it not? And so, Naraji shows up over there to meet these Pandavas and their bride, Draupadi. And he says to them, you know, there are many stories where because of a woman, brothers have developed rivalry. It's a very common thing for people to develop rivalry over a woman. And he said, you all have to find a way to live together such that there is no capacity for rivalry to come and divide you all, because you must stay together. You've heard that phrase, right? When you have like one finger, you could break it, and when you have a fist, it is unconquerable. Like that. So the 5 Pandavas separated are weak, but together they are strong. So their strength can never be broken because of Draupadi. And so together with Nalaji, they come up with a plan where each of them has their own house. So the plan is that Draupadi will stay with each of them in their own house for 1 year each. And while Draupadi is in the house of any of them alone for that 1 year, the other brothers are not allowed to enter. If a brother enters when they're not supposed to, that brother is going to go into exile for 1 year because of what he did. So this was the arrangement that they made, and they lived very happily like this. One day, a Brahmana came, and his cows had been stolen by somebody. And he came to Arjuna and he said, I need your help to claim back these cows. I need your help going to catch this thief. Now, it is Arjuna's responsibility. It is Arjuna's responsibility to help him. Imagine someone comes and thieves your bag, and a police is walking by, and you say to him to help you. And the policeman says, no, sorry, I can't help you. It's his duty, isn't it? And so it was Arjuna's duty to help him. And so he says, but my weapons are in Yudhishthira's house right now. And Yudhishthira is with Draupadi, and so I cannot go in there. But he had no choice. And so he goes in, and he retrieves his weapons, and he goes and he catches the thief, and that story ends very nicely. But now Arjuna says to Yudhishthira that he's going to go into exile for 1 year. And Yudhishthira says, what do you mean you're going to go into exile? You can't go. We understand why you had to come. It was an extenuating circumstance. And Arjuna said, no, a deal is a deal. And so he gets up and he leaves for a year, and he goes and he does tapas for 1 year. So many wonderful things happen to him in that 1 year. But another thing that happens is he ends up in Dwarka, where Bhagavan Sri Krishna is, and he falls in love with Bhagavan Sri Krishna's sister called Subhadra. And in a very creative plan, Bhagavan Sri Krishna makes the two of them fall in love and elope. He orchestrates their, what is it called? Their eloping. And so they elope because they wouldn't have been allowed to be together otherwise, backstory and all. And so Bhagavan sends these two, and then they get married and they live very happily also. And it is from them that Abhimanyu is born. And so now Draupadi has sons from each of the brothers. Arjuna has Abhimanyu. Bhima has another son called Gatotkacha, right? And so like this, everything has become very nice, very peaceful. They're living very happily, very peacefully in their Indraprastha, far away from the Kauravas. And they're happy they have nothing to do with them. Well, you know, things can't remain peaceful for a long time because that's just not the way the world is. So now what happens is, Naraji comes, I think it's Naraji who comes, and says to Yudhishthira that your grandfather Shantanu and your father Pandu, they want to go to Svarga, but you need to do a Rajasuya Yajna, a special Yajna, before they will be allowed. You know how we do offerings for our Pitris? So some offerings were pending yet to be made before they could go to Svarga. And so he's encouraged to do this Rajasuya Yajna, which will also establish him as the greatest emperor in the land. And so Nalaji says, but you can't just do it like that. You have to go and conquer all the other kingdoms, make allies with the other kings and all of this. It's a big preparation that has to be done. And the culmination of that is this wonderful Rajasuya Yajna. And so they do whatever it is they have to do. They go and fight with whatever kings they have to fight with. In the process, Bhima kills this king called Jarasandha. And now finally preparations are made, and this Rajasuya Yajna happens. and the Kauravas are invited for the Rajasuya Yajna. Everybody is invited. And now they're wondering, who is the special guest going to be for the Rajasuya Yajna? And obviously everyone knows it has to be Bhagavan Krishna. Who? I mean, if Bhagavan is there, which other special guest will be there? Well, there's one person called Shishupal. And he sees that Bhagavan Krishna is the special guest. And he starts to insult him. What? You put the child of a cowherd, you put a milkmaid's child to sit as your special guest, and insult after insult after insult. And Bhagavan Sri Krishna had made a promise to Shishupal's mother that he would forgive all of his wrongdoings. But when he reached 100 transgressions, he would kill him. And so Shishupal insulted Bhagavan Sri Krishna over and over and over again. 99 insults, Bhagavan Sri Krishna kept quiet and let it go. The 100th insult, Bhagavan Sri Krishna picked up his Sudarshan Chakra and cut off Shishupal's head. And this is happening in a yajna which is supposed to be auspicious. So now Naraji says, well, this inauspicious thing has happened in the middle of a yajna. It is the sign, it has all negative omens around it. Things are not going to be good now. But what can be done? That's how it had to happen. Now, while the Kauravas had come to this Indraprastha, remember, jealousy was the main fire in Duryodhana's heart. When you go and you see your enemy prospering, what happens? They may have earned the right to prosper fair and square, but in the person's heart, that flame of jealousy makes you wish that they didn't have what they had. Not only that, that you should have what they had. And so now Duryodhana looks at all this prosperity and he's extremely, extremely jealous. But not only that, now what happens is, in Indraprastha, because it was built, there was one Asura named Maya who also helped to construct this place, this sabha. And in the sabha, there were so many illusions. Where there was water, it looked like the ground was flat. And where the ground was flat, it looked like there was water. Where there was a wall, it looked like you could walk through. And where you could walk through, it looked like there was a wall. It was a room of illusions. And so now Duryodhana goes there and he is spellbound by the prosperity of these Pandavas, and he's looking around and he goes and he sees this water and he lifts his dhoti to try and walk over the water, and then he realizes, oh, it is just a ground, and then he goes and he's trying to walk through a wall, and he realizes that oh, it isn't a wall, it is just an illusion. And then he reaches this place, he reaches another area that looks like water, and he says, well, I'm not going to be deceived this time, right? And he walks thinking it is a flat ground, and it was not, it was actually water, and he fell in the water. Now let me tell you something. When somebody falls around you, what do? No, before you pick them up, you do something else. If the person is old, you rush and you say, oh my God, are you okay? And then you pick up the person. If the person is young, like your sibling or your friend, what do you do first? You laugh. That is the natural response for somebody who is equal to you who has fallen, right? In fact, I tell you, this is the test of old age. The day that you laugh, you fall, and people don't laugh, you should know that you have become old. Well, Duryodhana falls. And it is said, unfortunately, there is a presentation in the Mahabharata episodes, the TV serial. There's a scene and it shows where Draupadi is watching from her balcony. And she says, oh, the son of a blind king is also blind. But in the actual Mahabharata, those words have never been said by Draupadi. Draupadi is a woman of too high a character to have said something so low and so menial and so wicked. Draupadi is not the one who says this. Actually, what happens is the four brothers who are around at the time, Yudhishthira may not have been there or he may not have laughed, but the other four brothers, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadev, they laughed. Laughter is a normal thing when somebody falls, and it's Duryodhana of all people who tried to kill them, right? And so they laugh. Well, Duryodhana, he wishes that the ground would just open and he would just disappear. He feels so humiliated by the fact that they laughed at him. And he feels so jealous at the fact that they've got all this prosperity. And so now with hatred and humiliation and anger and jealousy, he returns back to Hastinapur. And when he returns back, the only thing that he is thinking is how can we destroy these Pandavas? They don't deserve to have this beautiful palace that they have. Why is it that they are so prosperous and they're so great and they're so wonderful? They don't deserve it. I deserve it. I should have what they have. And so now he starts to think of a way in which he can claim back Indraprastha also. You see, when somebody is wicked, it just, you know that they're going to do something wicked. Well, Duryodhana had noble qualities, but in his bones he was wicked, wicked, wicked. And so now he, with his gang of other wicked people, come up with a terrible plan by which they are going to try to claim back what the Pandavas have built with hard work and sincerity. But that plan is the plan for tomorrow. So we're going to pause here and you'll have to come to Tushin Radha Krishna Mandir to find out what happens. If you don't know. Actually, tomorrow's story, tomorrow's katha is the most difficult one to hear in the Mahabharata. It makes your blood boil. It makes you emotional. It is the kind of story that you don't wish would ever happen, could ever happen. But it happened. And so tomorrow we will see what that was, how it played out, and how that is the direct catalyst for the Mahabharata war. So far, everything that is happening is like an indirect catalyst building up to the Mahabharata war, but tomorrow's events are the direct catalyst for the destruction of the Kauravas. So that we will see tomorrow. Thank you very much to the executives of this mandir, to Pandit Vikash also, for hosting this 5th night of the Mahabharata Yajna. Mahabharata is a fascinating story that forces us to come face to face with the negative tendencies that are in us. So we hear these stories of Duryodhana, we judge him, we think what a terrible person he is. But there is a Duryodhana in us. There is a Dhritarashtra in us that turns a blind eye to what is good because of our attachments. Is it not? There is a Duryodhana in us that is jealous and doesn't want to see people be better than us. And all these characters are very much in us. The Pandavas are also in us with their weaknesses. You will see the weaknesses of the Pandavas come out greatly tomorrow. Okay? Alright, I'll share a few announcements and then I will pass it to the executives for any, then I'll do Aarti and then we'll have any announcements from the mandir. Okay? Chinmay Mission is a teaching organization. And here in Guyana, what we're doing is teaching. That is all we do. We teach Bhagavad Gita, we teach Ramayana, we teach anything in Hinduism. We teach Pandit course, we teach children, we teach adults. So if you know anyone who is interested in studying Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, systematically, deeply, to understand the true meaning of what is said, well, that is the main work that we do. We go to mandirs, we go to homes, we teach online, we teach at the ashram in Monrepo. Please visit us. When the bridge is made and you want to take a drive, don't forget us. Come over the bridge and visit us in Monripo at the ashram across on the other side, right? So many things going on. You can speak to us. You can check our Facebook page for more details. If anyone can't come tomorrow but would like to see what happened, it will be online on Facebook and next day on YouTube as well. Okay. In August we had a camp also here in Tushin, a 3-day sleepover camp. It was so much fun. Like that, if you all want anything organized anytime, we're here to serve. Okay? Alright. We're also going to start a Bhagavad Gita chanting competition. We did one last year, we did one the year before. This year we're going to be teaching Bhagavad Gita chapter 12. If you know anyone or if you yourself may be interested in becoming a teacher for the chanting competition, you don't need to know how to chant. You just need to have the willingness to learn and the willingness to dedicate time to teach. We will teach you, we will train you how to chant it perfectly, and then once you pass a test, then you will become a teacher for the next few months and you will teach others also to chant this Bhagavad Gita chapter 12. If you're interested, please do let us know. Alright, final announcement. For those who are interested in studying Vedanta, the Shastra's philosophy of Hinduism systematically in Gurukul style, the way it was originally taught, Chinmay Mission offers a 2-year Vedanta course. It is an intensive training for those who want to really understand scriptures, to teach it, to become brahmacharis, swamis. You have to go to the ashram, stay for 2 years, study every single day. You have classes from 5:30 in the morning. They start, not you wake up at 5:30, classes start at 5:30 in the morning and they finish around this time at night. Every single day. No Saturday, Sunday. Means there is a Saturday, Sunday, but it's a normal day. No holidays, no breaks, no Diwali, no Christmas, no nothing. Every day, same schedule. You don't know what day is when. You don't know when it is January. You don't know when it is Phagwa. Every day is the same day for 2 years. But for someone who is interested, it is the most amazing 2 years of your life. Right? So if you know someone who's interested, the qualifications are they have to be unmarried, they have to be around 30 or under, they have to have a university degree or equivalent. And once they pass the interview, it's a free course. It is and the next course is starting right here in Trinidad on October 2nd. Just now. So if you know anyone who's interested, please tell them quickly. They just have to apply, pass the interview, and book a ticket and go to Trinidad. Alright. We will do Bhagavad Gita Aarti. Bhagavad Gita comes in the middle of the Mahabharata. And we study the Mahabharata because one of the reasons is that the Bhagavad Gita shines brighter when we understand the backdrop of the Mahabharata. So now we will do Gita Aarti. Please do stand and chant along. Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu, Mangalam Garudatvajah, Mangalam Pundarikaksham, Mangalayatanu Hari. Tvameva Mata Shabita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vidyan Pravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mameva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mameva Deva. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. श्री कृष्ण चंद्र भगवान की जय, श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। हर हर नमः पार्वती पतये, हर हर महादेव। हरि ओम।